Welcome, students, to American Roots Music. Again, I'm so glad to be with you today, and we're going to talk again about some of this great music that really helped to form who we are as a country. And I'm so excited. The term work song is descriptive of any song that's used by workers to assist them with their tasks that they carry out on the job. Most of the work songs throughout the years had been the domain of African American workers, although there are certainly exceptions to this rule. And they're not practiced that commonly anymore, but certainly there were a lot of work songs that were used as people were working with the levees and laying the railroad tracks. Prison inmates, sometimes as they would work in the fields, would sing the work songs. The function of the work song obviously is to help people to carry out their tasks. There's many ways that they can do this, but it can be just for fun, or it can also be something that's essentially linked to the success of the venture. For instance, a person could be laying railroad track or hammering spikes, and it could be very important that this happens at a certain time, so the rhythm would help the person to know when to swing their hammer, when to chop that wood or whatever. And of course, you know, if something happened that they got out of time, that the song leader didn't direct them correctly, someone could be injured. And of course, they can just be used to help people pass the time and relieve stress, carry out monotonous jobs, or even, you know, to allow people to have a sense of camaraderie and, you know, group cohesiveness. That can be helpful too. You might even think about soldiers. You know, they march together, and the music helps them to stay in step and to regulate the speed of the soldiers, and again, to function as a single unit. Another function of the work songs, as I say, is to coordinate those movements. Spike driving could be a good example, as I said, or, you know, track laying, hauling in fish in the nets. The song leader had a critical role. People could, as I mentioned, be injured if this was not done correctly. Work songs were usually fairly simple. They didn't often use harmony. They mostly relied on unison singing, meaning they all sang the same note, and they often relied on some type of call and response. Maybe the song leader would call out a line, and everybody else would sing that line back to them, or maybe they would have a refrain that they kept answering the leader with. Again, work songs are hardly ever used today, or at least at an organizational level. Certainly people do sing and you know, do whatever they have to pass the time of day, but on an organizational level, work songs are really a thing of the past for the most part. String bands were practiced in the African American traditions the same as they were in the European traditions. Unfortunately, many of the African Americans were discouraged from practicing the music that really most closely related to their heritage. They were discouraged, again, or even forbidden to do so. Particularly the drumming was often discouraged. Some people felt like the drumming was a rallying cry for revolt, and there were times that this happened where the drums were used to organize and direct the slaves in a manner that helped them to try to gain their freedom. So unfortunately, in many cases, the African Americans did not feel that they had the freedom to practice their own specific folk culture. By the turn of the century, the guitar was often added to these string band ensembles, so it was likely to have, at this point, the ensembles were likely to have a fiddle, a banjo, a mandolin, and again the guitar. And most of them would have been playing the country dance tunes, maybe some of the tunes that showed up in the minstrel shows prior to that, things like Turkey in the Straw. So that was a tune that was commonly played in dances and still is from time to time. Characteristics of African American string band music. The melody was usually simplified. The rhythm could be highly virtuosic. So rhythm and strong rhythm and even complex rhythms were held in high esteem. Emphasis was on the rhythm, as I say, and also improvisation. So just like what you heard me play, they weren't against taking shifts in the melody, sometimes subtle, sometimes dramatic shifts in the melody, creating right as the song went along. Also, the playing seemed to be more forceful and intent upon driving home a 2/4 beat or a 4/4 beat for dancing, so that the beat was central. If you hear people playing rhythm like this, so if I were to play Turkey in the Straw, so you can hear there's a strong emphasis on that beat. Ragtime music today. Ragtime music is still popular today, but ragtime music showed up in the around the turn of the century in the I guess you would say the beer halls and the clubs in the Midwest as the players started combining piano technique, really more European style piano technique with some of the syncopation that had been gaining popularity in the minstrel shows. So it was really a musical hybrid of elements of European technique with some of the innovations that were showing up in the African American traditions in the 1800s. Ragtime had a huge impact on the musical landscape. It was wildly popular, and it really set the stage for the early 20th century emergence of jazz music, which really happened near the end of World War I. But ragtime shared a lot of features with again, jazz music. And it also, beyond helping musicians to move to that innovation, I think a lot of people would say that the ragtime helped to prepare the audience's ears for the sophistication that was getting ready to show up in jazz music, the interesting note choices, the interesting rhythms, interesting syncopations, and the improvisatory feel. African American ballads also existed. African Americans, as their European Anglo American counterparts, shared the tradition of writing and performing ballads. African American ballads also related a story, but it is interesting to note that these stories were often much more subjective. They tended to really dramatize the events, and they were not as likely to go in a linear fashion. And oftentimes they were more likely to improvise.